Management Corporation, Constituency Empowerment, Kaya Agro Affairs, and the National Employment Program. And also, Mr. Speaker, special thanks to my wife, Gwyneth Frederick, and my children for their patience. And I also want to thank the Salabia Constituency Labour Party branch and the people of the Salabia Constituency for their faith in me, a little rough on the edges. And I really, at the end, Mr. Speaker, want to reaffirm my support for the proposed budget and to reinstate my commitment to serve the Salabia constituency and this country. Thank you. All my generations.
Your mic. Yes, I recognize the PAL rep for Roseau Central, Honorable Skerrit, or Popon Skerrit.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my full support to the estimates and revenue and expenditure which was presented to this Honorable House by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. I begin today with a verse from Proverbs 3:27. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do so. Mr. Speaker, this budget stayed true to our objectives as a government to respond to the needs of our people by outlining bold programs and platforms for investment to empower our citizens and to help them reach their fullest potential. But we are also a responsible, prudent government, and this year's budget, like every other budget, has reflected these two guiding principles. This is a budget founded on the aspirations of Dominican citizens who possess the drive, the will, and the determination to succeed despite the various challenges plaguing our global community. And I wish to draw attention to the fact that although the ongoing war may be millions of miles away from us, this geographic distance does not make us immune. A war involving a country which is one of the world's major producers of oil and wheat will undoubtedly have adverse effects on the region and right here in Dominica. And this year's budget theme, Rise Above the Challenges, See Beyond the Horizon, Embrace All Opportunities to Deliver a Dynamic Dominica, perfectly captures the approach we should be taking during these turbulent times. And within this context, I am struck by some of the trends that we are witnessing which compromise our sustainability and resilience. For example, Mr. Speaker, our people are becoming more and more dependent on the consumption of imported processed foods as opposed to our locally grown healthy options. This is why I welcome the focus of this year's budget on plans and strategies aimed at strengthening food security, agriculture, and agro-processing. Food security should not only be the concern of the government. This government is proposing that agriculture should be everybody's business. We must, therefore, develop a mindset which encourages the purchase and the consumption of local products and produce. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you of my plans for Roseau Central in regards to this. Roseau being what it is only natural that you may ask, how am I planning to embark on an agricultural and an agro-processing program in the city? There's no land and the space is limited. And you would be correct, Mr. Speaker. The issue with Roseau, and any city as a matter of fact, is that prime land is always used for infrastructure. But this is not going to deter us. Because if the traditional way of farming is not possible, we now have to find unconventional ways. And in this day and age, there are quite a wide range of resources and tried and tested means of being unconventional in farming. These include vertical farming, rooftop farming, hydroponic farming, and other such creative methods. It is with this in mind that I have enlisted the assistance of the Chinese government to begin training my constituents of Roseau Central these methods of fruit production, and I want to thank the Chinese ambassador for his favorable support. Mr. Speaker, these advanced farming techniques from the Chinese agriculturalists will surely open up new business opportunities for my people of Roseau Central. I have already purchased a quantity of wall-mounted planter bags, indoor vertical greening containers, potato grow bags, which were specifically designed for urban farming. Mr. Speaker, you're a Roseau man. Imagine you're walking through the footpaths in Roseau. There are lots of footpaths that lead to houses and different areas that you can't really see from the road. Imagine you're walking through this and your side walls are lined with herbs and teas and the potato bags, carrots, even flowers, Mr. Speaker. A year from now, if you stand, when I look down from the top floor of the financial center, a year from now, when I look down and I see all the concrete roofs that this government has already built, you will see, Mr. Speaker, vertical farming, you will see rooftop farming of high-value crops at optimum capacity, because that is what we will be pushing in Roseau Central. So, Mr. Speaker, no longer will people from the countryside cut style on us in Roseau, because we can be farmers too. We in that. But seriously speaking, there is an illusion in the minds of many that Roseau Central does not have farmers. While we may not have farmlands in the city, I can say to you we have several farmers who reside in the city and they farm in the rural communities. And as a matter of fact, I intend to set up a Farmers and Fishers Association so collectively we can make representation to the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. Additionally, I will engage our city dwellers, those who have access to spaces which can be transformed into an agri-hood to produce good food, which is critical for improving the health and the independence of city populace, as well as the overall look and the ambience of Roseau. Mr. Speaker, it's true in the past I have spoken many times about creating urban gardens on the abandoned lots. But despite much effort on my part, I have not been as successful as anticipated. And this is due to the fact that there is a lack of collaboration or lackluster view of this initiative from many property owners in Roseau. The problem is our city has way too many abandoned lots. It is filled with derelict buildings, it's harboring pests, it is accumulating debris, it is harmful to our health, it is harmful to our environment. A lot of these lots and homes, there are fire hazards. Many of them are actually gone up in flames already. And just imagine if we could transform these places into hanging gardens, seed beds, trellis vine crops, such as cucumbers and squash, cantaloupe, string beans. Can you see my vision?
Yes, yes, yes.
And so this is why I am in full support of the tax which is placed on the abandoned properties in Roseau Central. However, Mr. Speaker, I have already advocated with the Minister of Finance for a tax exemption for those property owners who would allow for the use of their properties for flower gardens, parklets, and the like on their property. And he has already indicated that this is considered in the implementation of the abandoned property tax. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm appealing to all those who have abandoned lots in the city who are willing to partner with me in urban gardening, green spaces, and flower oases. Reach out to me. We can work together and transform the look of the city. We can give an instant facelift. This is also an opportunity to empower our youth who are interested in getting involved. They will be actively contributing to the upliftment and the progress of their own community. Let me also note, Mr. Speaker, very soon, I too will be utilizing the rooftop space at the City Breeze Apartments for just this type of urban farming, as I believe in practicing what I preach. There, we will embark on vertical farming techniques, as well as emphasis will be placed on horticulture. There's one apartment building, Mr. Speaker, you would swear the top roof was built for flowers to grow. Hence, we will develop a local flower industry to meet the high international demand of exotic cut flowers such as ginger lilies, birds of paradise, anthuriums, and heliconias. And let me place this on record. I have been persistently advocating for a commercial kitchen when in talks with the Prime Minister of Finance. In fact, just this morning he said yes. So, he agreed. I am pleased to announce that the commercial kitchen is coming to the city, Mr. Speaker, and I am very excited about it. Because if we are going to take agro-processing to the next level, we need a commercial kitchen. Where are we going to do it, Mr. Speaker? We have already identified a prime location from which many culinary visions and endeavors can be guided and launched. An industrial quality space that has international standards and quality equipment. And if we wish to produce quality products, this is exactly the space that we need, which is up to task. Rosa Central can be the hub for agro-processing, utilizing wastage, I would say, from other areas who produce different crops in abundance. Our food processing will convert fruits and vegetables into jams and jellies, juices, sauces. Food kitchens can be places where we can prep meals for the needy, the homeless, the homebound, the elderly, which we actually already have going on, but we need to expand. We are actively interested in and pursuing the production of good quality food, tasty treats, the packaging of frozen and dried produce for local consumption as well as export. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Ministry of Fisheries for, I wish to highlight the massive investment made in fisheries and the additional investment which will be made later this year. The ice machine, yes, absolutely. My fishermen, like Julie John Baptist and Brian Dowie, are very excited about our ice machine in Rosa Central. That's right. And I am happy that the Rosa Fishery Complex is continuing to be repaired and will be in much use for our fisher folk. And to also add to that, Mr. Speaker, our ladies of the city have expressed interest in the processing of fish now that it will be more in abundance by way of drying, smoking, salting, even seasoning to sell on the shelves, shredding, even making fish balls and fish burgers to put in the frozen section of our supermarket so we don't have to be importing this, Mr. Speaker. All of this can be done in our commercial kitchen right here in the city. Mr. Speaker, you will know that Rosa Central has the most small businesses anywhere in Dominica. From the folks who make the local juices, to my friends who sell along the sidewalks, to the many vendors who set up shop on the bayfront. There are many shops and bars who sell in the city, the crafters, the skilled artisans like Ethelyn Williams and Job Joseph, whose leather skills surpasses many, I would say, in the country. The best of the best is always in the city. And to my friend Davida, who is a top seamstress. Actually, she is soon to be upgraded to an outfitted new commercial space at the City Breeze Apartments. I I certainly, as a member of parliament, will be making representation to the Ministry of Small Business to ensure that we get our fair share of the pie as we sustain the small businesses to help them grow. And as a small business owner myself, I am a strong advocate for more business incentives, and so I gladly welcome the decision of the government to facilitate the granting of duty-free concessions to business owners. And let me just assure my Roseau Central entrepreneurs, count on me to make very strong representation, because this program is run from the Office of the Prime Minister. So I want to ensure that all of you will take full advantage of this business boost. In fact, some of you have already reached out to me, and I just want you to consider it done. Mr. Speaker, earlier this year, we saw the completion of 51 apartment units at the Upper River Bank, City Breeze Apartments, which were allocated to deserving families. But let us take a step back to truly appreciate the stellar efforts made to bring these high-quality, resilient homes to the people of Roseau Central. This government, Mr. Speaker, continues to excel in the provision of safe, superior quality homes to the citizens of Dominica and to the City Breeze Apartments. This is a shining example of our commitment to the well-being of our people. At the City Breeze complex, 9 commercial spaces have just been recently allocated and are currently being customized for individual businesses at various types. And let me say special thanks to MMC, who will be giving back to our community by providing assistance to set up these small businesses with modern store displays and attractive decor. There will be spaces for photography studio, a sewing shop, esports, which I will speak about a bit later, health and beauty, a convenience store, and much more. However, Mr. Speaker, there remains a big demand for housing in the city. Right now, Mr. Speaker, if you see my desk, you will see there's over 1,000 applications, high stack on my desk. With the demand far outstripping the availability, we are fast-tracking plans to build 2 additional apartment complexes in the Pound and the Riverbank area. I look forward to the commencement of these projects because at the top of my agenda is the comfort and the safety and the happiness of my constituents. Let me take this opportunity to commend the government's constituency-based program under which several private homes were refurbished and built in the city as well as outside of the city. It is important that I make special mention of Pastor Samuel Augustine, whose support is critical in these efforts. He is of tremendous help and support in our housing program in Roseau Central. Mr. Speaker, the Roseau Enhancement Project, particularly the rehabilitation of Great George Street, and I know that this remains a hot button topic for all of us, but like the member of VECAS, I do not make promises that I cannot keep. And rest assured that the reconstruction of Great George Street, although delayed, is not denied. The rehabilitation of Great George Street will get underway later this year, and a contract was just signed earlier this month. Likewise, procurement has already been done for the rehabilitation of the Virgin Lane sidewalks, and also, Mr. Speaker, the transformation of the Old Market Square, one of the many projects on my list, will also commence in this fiscal year. When complete, it will immediately uplift our city and bring a new spirit of entrepreneurship to the city. Mr. Speaker, these pursuits cannot come at a more crucial time. With the construction of the international airport, we will see an influx of visitors, which no doubt will be a welcome boost to our local economy. Hotels, tour and taxi operators, restaurants, and so many other tourism service providers are poised to benefit from this major project. These are exciting times for Dominica, and our youth are at the center of our planning and development initiatives. Where our young people are concerned, Mr. Speaker, in Roseau Central, we are placing focus on technical, vocational, and academic programs, which will develop a better skilled, more productive, and varied workforce in Dominica. I strongly believe that in order to have more diversified workforce, we must take on multifaceted approaches to the programs that we promote and we support. For example, Mr. Speaker, in Roseau Central, we have initiated a training program specifically geared at increasing knowledge and skills in visual arts. Training is ongoing, and this includes light, stage, costume design, stage management, project management, drama, pan music, dance. Mr. Al Maturin, who received theatrical training in Trinidad, is facilitating these training sessions not only in Roseau, in the Kalinago territory, in other areas, and where interest is expressed in these programs. Mr. Speaker, this administration has a sterling track record in the provision of education to the children of Dominica. Yes. And I can point to the several means of support available to many families, schools, and scholars.
10 more minutes.
Give them an additional.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
15.
15 in case.
15 more minutes. 15 more minutes. 15 more. 15. Come with it.
Thank you. What? What did you say? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Popon Skerrit be given an additional 15 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. You are given an additional 15 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, the provision of free uniform school books, school transfer grants, free transportation, and a variety of scholarship opportunities have already begun. These are just some of the ways that we are making education equitable and accessible. And I too am playing my part in that regard, because in my own charity organization, the Melissa Skerrit Foundation, it persists in its mission to aid in early childhood education and support our students through their academic career. The Adopt a Child Back to School program has been around for 5 years, and several of our bright young individuals have gone on to perform exceptionally well in national assessments. Mr. Speaker, in Roseau Central, we are proud of the National Assessment Champions program. As its name suggests, it was created to aid in the preparation of our students for the exam. And let me make special mention of Ms. Kathy Robinson and Ms. Labad, who have faithfully assisted with this program to create our city scholars. I must note, Mr. Speaker, that for the 2 years that this program has been operating, we've always had young scholars in the top 10 island performers. Our next goal is to accomplish a similar initiative for the CSEC examinations. Still in education, I welcome the announcement from the Honorable Prime Minister that the construction of the much talked about Goodwill Secondary School will soon get underway. As you know, I am a Roseau North native, and the development of this institution is important to me because of the positive impact it will have on the development of the human resource in the community served. I have seen the designs, and I am certain that the students and teachers will absolutely love it. Mr. Speaker, work is ongoing on the new wing of the Dominica Grammar School. This will feature 3 major buildings for classes and lectures, a library, administrative offices, a greenhouse, a football field, a tennis court, a basketball court, a green area, even parking spaces in Roseau, and other general facilities, Mr. Speaker. And I personally ensured that I was privy to the design and specifically requested that classrooms be up to international standards with modern designs which are technologically adaptable. My passion and commitment to sports development, Mr. Speaker, has been well documented. I strongly believe that sports help to instill discipline, manners, character, maturity, team building, as well as leadership qualities in our youth. We saw the potential for sport tourism earlier this month with the international coverage of the cricket match at the Windsor Park. Dominicans are recognized as the region's best fans, and while our hospitality, team, support, and enthusiasm stood out, this was not all the commentators and analysts were impressed with. In fact, they were impressed with our facility. They say it's one of the best in the Caribbean, if not the best.
Yes.
And they were particularly shocked at our amazing ability to rebound after the effects of Hurricane Maria with world-class sporting infrastructure which bowled them over. We received similar assessments and reviews after the National Netball Tournament, which was also hosted earlier this year. I look forward, Mr. Speaker, to a similar resurgence of the sport of boxing here in Roseau Central, that which I am passionate about. Yes, I like to box. I have been working very closely with Mr. Job Joseph to revamp this sport, and we have secured the support of the Chinese government to revive boxing in the city with a new international boxing ring and the equipment.
Wow, wow, wow.
We are already seeing the fruits of this intervention as later this year, Dominica will host the Caribbean Boxing Championships. Mr. Speaker, this is the biggest of its kind ever, as it's the first time that the Spanish-speaking countries of Cuba, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, and Ecuador will be taking part in this competition right here in Dominica. Sports tourism, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I am also actively collaborating with several individuals and associations, including the Dominica Drafts Committee and the Chess Association. We recently hosted a successful draft competition, and I will be having talks with the Chess Association to assist in revamping the sport, the game. I encourage any other associations and individuals with constructive ideas to come forward. We are undeniably in the age of technology, the dynamic age of innovation and modernized thinking. And of course, Mr. Speaker, Dominica shall not be left behind.
Oh, no.
That is why I have started looking at esports. Esports is an industry which is not widely explored in this region, but is moving very quickly in the first world countries. But we want to be a part of that. Esports go beyond just playing video games. It involves programming, coding, graphic design, and paid endorsements, international competitions for gameplay and talent. And so I have partnered with MMC to bring esports to Roseau Central. One of the commercial spaces at City Breeze Apartments will be outfitted as a gaming room. It will have state-of-the-art screens, soundproofing, gaming chairs, sound system consoles like the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, the Oculus virtual reality, Mr. Speaker.
Wow.
We're raising the bar. We are raising our standards and embracing the digital world and all the promise it holds for our young people. Esports, Mr. Speaker, if taken seriously, can place money in the hands of our gamers and our young professional gamers.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, one of the highest paid off during competitions, 46 million to a 15-year-old. This could be your son or your daughter.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, another exciting venture for Roseau, through the kind assistance of the People's Republic of China, is a children's playground. And that will be established in the city within the next 2 months. I don't want to spill the beans too much on this, but all I can say is that it will be like no other playground that Dominica has ever seen before. Mr. Speaker, playground sets will also go to the north, in Portsmouth and Vegas, to benefit our children in those areas. I am also working, Mr. Speaker, with the Ministry of Environment to strategically redevelop parts of the Botanic Gardens, one of the most visited tourist sites in Roseau. Garden tourism, Mr. Speaker. An area will be transformed into a sensory garden for children and the elderly, where they can interact with flowers, pick small fruits, sit quietly on evenings, tell stories, spend quality time instead of other pursuits like the TV and the smartphones and the snacking during the summer. We will create an open air space where tourists and locals can shop, dine, eat, drink, socialize, play mini golf, and enjoy low-key entertainment. The Ministry of Tourism announced that they will soon embark on Romance in Nature campaign. And Roseau Central, I can assure you, will be at the forefront of this with our Lovers Lane and rainforest destination wedding options right here in the city. Minister of Tourism, we have to talk. Lovers Lane is coming. In fact, we want to speed this up because next year is my 10-year wedding anniversary, and what better place than to renew my vows right here in our city on the Lovers Lane. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we're embarking on an innovative Pint the Tongue project. Under this project, we will be pooling our abundant supply of local, talented artists to engage in city-wide street painting and designs on buildings, intersections, and sidewalks. As I speak, Mr. Speaker, envision art murals on city walls, colorful designs on newly installed street benches, and charming scenes scattered throughout the city. This project will draw on the creativity of our local artists, giving them well-deserved attention and exposure on the local scene and further afield. Mr. Speaker, there's so much more I could talk about. Our plans for Roseau Central are indeed expansive. Everything done in Roseau considers the social and economic benefit of our citizens. And in keeping with this, we will host our 3rd annual Christmas lighting in Roseau Central later this year. This is a successful event which has grown exponentially each year. We also hope to host the highly requested Christmas Village and the Santa's Mall. Our previous Santa's Mall consisted of 60 business booths and employed 119 individuals. Mr. Speaker, this includes vendors, security personnel, cleaners, and other staff. And with this success, I hope to continue to introduce these dynamic initiatives which benefit so many of us, of our small entrepreneurs and our citizens. An annual food and rum festival is also on the cards, Mr. Speaker. And I've already received quite an outpouring of support on this idea as I collaborate with the Ministry of Tourism. With these activities and programs, we are well on our way to making Roseau a city where something is always happening. With our exciting urban farming initiatives, our commercial kitchen, our city fairs, our street food and drink festivals, there's so much going on. And believe it or not, I've only given a brief overview of my plans and my projects and initiatives that are currently in my work plan. I have not even gone into Single Mothers Program, the personal assistants who are assigned to the elderly in the city, the children's STEM program, our summer camp programs, all of which are dear to me as a mother, a leader, and a citizen of this country. Mr. Speaker, as I end today, the 2022-2023 budget has left me pumped and energized to accomplish our goals in Roseau Central and for Dominica. I am honored to be part of the team which will push these measures forward to enhance the lives of the Dominican people. And before I end, Mr. Speaker, I have to take this opportunity to salute my Roseau Central team. If you are listening, I know you're tuned in. My zone leaders, the staff at the Constituency office, as well as the Labor House. Let me thank my secretary, Terry Green, for her hard work and her commitment. my ground soldiers like Vado and Sonia, my Facebook soldiers, Samantha Robinson, big up to you, my prayer warriors who keep me covered by the precious blood of Jesus so nothing they try can work. And my constituents, my supporters, my family, I appreciate all of you and I love you. God bless you, Mr. Speaker and Dominica. Thank you.
I know you wanted to go bigger. He stood up before you. No. So I recognize the Deputy Speaker. Honorable Senator, roll, proceed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise this afternoon to give my total support to this 2022-2023 budget put before this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, before I begin, I have to say that I cannot help but notice that members on the other side seem to have a difficulty in speaking to their own accomplishments and interventions undertaken over the last year in their capacities as MPs. And, you know, it troubles me that the biggest critics of this hard-working government are the ones who many of us wonder, what do they do? But, Mr. Speaker, let me leave that alone and let me get back to my presentation. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I would like to refer to my notes.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first wish to applaud our Honorable Prime Minister unreservedly for yet another visionary, transformational, innovative, timely, and inspiring budget presentation this year. This is, of course, no surprise, I must add, because it is clear that we have a visionary and truly transformational leader in the name of Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit. Mr. Speaker, I consider this year's budget to be another critical milestone on our development path as we continue to move forward, rising above the challenges, seeing beyond the horizon, and embracing all opportunities to deliver dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, I have listened intently, and there is no doubt that this budget is primed to reach every strata of society, every economic group, every demographic profile, and no doubt this is because of the deep consultative process employed in the weeks leading up to Tuesday's presentation. There is something for everyone because everyone was involved. That's right. I had the opportunity to be a part of this year's youth consultation. And let me tell you, our Prime Minister, the Minister of Planning, Dr. Henderson, Honorable Dr. Henderson, the Minister of Youth, Honorable Dr. Alice King, they took notes. They exchanged ideas. But most importantly, they listened to the youth as they shared their concerns, their opinions, and creative solutions to challenges faced. This, to me, embodies what good, inclusive governance is. And it is reflective of a government that cares about the people while working with the people for the people. I take this opportunity to personally express appreciation to all the young professionals who accepted the challenge and wholeheartedly participated in this process. Mr. Speaker, this budget has been crafted and presented against the backdrop of a world which is severely challenged. From ongoing international conflicts to the possibility of yet another impending health emergency. Small island developing states like ours are amongst the most vulnerable countries and are heavily impacted by external shocks, the effects of climate change, and the like. Yet still, we are rising above the challenges. We are seeing beyond the horizon, and we are embracing all opportunities. Notwithstanding these unprecedented, challenging times that we face, this administration continues to fund major development projects, including the construction of schools, rehabilitation of the East Coast Road, the geothermal energy project, the international airport, just to name a few. They continue to send scores of young Dominicans overseas to obtain university education. They continue to maintain all the social programs which have been implemented to take care of our vulnerable citizens. They continue to make tangible progress towards the construction of 5,000 homes for the people of Dominica. And Mr. Speaker, during this budget, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister and his hard-working cabinet, they offer a solid plan for the continued development of our country, which will most certainly impact my fellow young people. Mr. Speaker, as mentioned in years prior, it would be remiss of me if I did not take this opportunity to underscore critical interventions made by this Dominica Labour Party administration during the 2021 to 2022 fiscal year and aspects of the 2022 to 2023 budget. Mr. Speaker, in every aspect of this budget, we see once again how we are rising above the challenges. We are embracing all the opportunities to deliver a dynamic Dominica. Of note are the bold steps taken in areas such as the digital economy, the continued housing revolution, tourism, entrepreneurship, and of course, agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the dependency and doom and gloom rhetoric spewed by the leader of the opposition could not be further from the truth. I will seek in my presentation to debunk these poorly purported and inaccurate statements and speak to the many worthy initiatives that are happening and will happen for the youth of Dominica. Let me start with the work online Dominica and the digital economy. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the many inroads. The digital economy in pursuit of our dynamic Dominica. This DLP government, in its 2019 manifesto, stated very clearly that the digital economy would be a major pillar of dynamic Dominica. And it was because our honorable Prime Minister understood that digital technologies offer untapped opportunities for entrepreneurship and innovation, even in sectors that are not necessarily tech-oriented, such as agriculture. Since the establishment of the digital economy portfolio, Dominica has advanced its efforts in this endeavor. I wish to make mention of the aggressive public education drive by the ministry, spearheaded by Honorable Laville and Mr. Robert Tong, coordinator of the digital economy. We also know of 15 innovation hubs which are to be constructed across Dominica. Mr. Speaker, this is so important because digital skills are a key enabler for the inclusion, use, and adoption of digital technology in our growing digital economy. And this is why I, along with many others, are pleased to see a further $7.9 million allocated in this year's budget for the operationalization of the digital economy. And Mr. Speaker, you can't talk about the digital economy without mentioning the massive success that is the Work Online Dominica program. Yes. Mr. Speaker, solving the problem of youth unemployment or underemployment requires imaginative solutions and collective action. This Work Online Dominica program allows participants to develop their skills and unlock decent work opportunities right from the comfort of their homes. In 2021, the global gig economy was worth an estimated $350 billion, US dollars that is, Mr. Speaker. Wow. The Work Online Dominica program continues to position our young people to get in on that action and grab their slice of that $350 billion US dollar pie. The gig economy also provides young people with the opportunity to explore varied avenues of interest in order to figure out their own career path. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to attend the third cohort, the graduation ceremony of that, the third cohort of the Work Online Dominica program. Thank you, Honorable Laville. for extending that invitation. And Mr. Speaker, there a further 60 young Dominicans graduated. This program has impacted people in the most meaningful of ways. I was told of one participant who was already on the platform Upwork. However, he wasn't able to get a hit, he wasn't getting jobs. However, after the program, after completing that program, Mr. Speaker, that same individual experienced success in obtaining jobs online. This speaks to the quality of this Work Online Dominica program. Mr. Speaker, I also interacted with several persons who had quit their local jobs and gone on to work fully online, taking home a higher pay, of course. I also spoke to this one gentleman who, because of health reasons, he could no longer work at his place of employment. However, through this program and working online, he is now able to earn a living from home. Also, Mr. Speaker, in looking around at the graduation ceremony, I also noticed that there were many already employed persons. Now, they are potentially creating a second income stream for themselves. And just to say, Mr. Speaker, the economic benefits derived from people accessing jobs online are far-reaching. This is why I urge the youth of Dominica to take advantage of these opportunities. The digital economy train is loading, and trust me, you do not want to get left behind. I turn to the Future Housing Development Project. Mr. Speaker, globally, home ownership among young households has been decreasing in several major advanced economies. Young people today are confronted with the higher land prices and increased construction costs, among other challenges. As such, many young households are unable to take on such big investments, and as a result, they have challenges in creating wealth. Mr. Speaker, this is why the implementation of the Future Housing Development Program is such a game changer for our young people, our young professionals, as it provides them with a clear path to home ownership. But, Mr. Speaker, this government's focus for young people towards home ownership did not start on July 17th, 2022. Mr. Speaker, in fact, you can recall, just 2 years ago, our Honorable Prime Minister, in his 2020-2021 budget presentation, outlined a 40 and younger home ownership program with the specific intention of providing support to young people as they seek to purchase land or build their own homes. With over 200 applications approved, it is no surprise that the success of this program has warranted an additional allocation of $1.5 million in this year's budget. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, the youth of Dominica are definitely looking forward to this. Today, this government has gone even further with a budget allocation of $5 million for the development of this Future Housing Development Program. Mr. Speaker, our Honorable Prime Minister has indicated that these houses will be sold at highly discounted rates to our young Dominicans, with favorable interest rates as low as 4%. This could very well mean that your mortgage could possibly be less than the rent that you're paying now, based on the size and location of where you live in. Mr. Speaker, this is development, and this is a government working for young people. Mr. Speaker, once these houses are completed, our young people will benefit from the many advantages of home ownership. And some include the wealth accumulation, like persons would have mentioned. And what that means is that as you pay down on your mortgage, your equity increases. Not to mention, Mr. Speaker, it will create an enabling environment for population growth, if you catch my drift. As owning your own home offers more stability and security. And you know, we know that's something that our Prime Minister is a proponent of. And Mr. Speaker, I can't speak of this Future Housing Development Program without mentioning and commending our Prime Minister for the establishment of this advisory committee. Mr. Speaker, This is the active youth involvement and participation that our honorable leader of the opposition was asking about. Mr. Speaker, this is yet another example of a government working with the people for the people. The appointment of an advisory group made up of young people is truly a powerful statement of commitment by this administration and its all-inclusive development agenda. And Mr. Speaker, I speak directly to our young people. I want to say directly to our young people that anyone who chooses to speak ill of this program is attempting to derail your future. Note, I said attempting, because that will never happen. They will never succeed. Mr. Speaker, the future is very promising for us young people, particularly for our young professionals as they excel in their careers and begin shaping their long-term financial plans. We recognize that youth have returned home to make their contribution, and this administration wants to acknowledge and support you in your return. I now turn to youth and tourism. Mr. Speaker, young people stand to benefit significantly from the investments made in our local tourism industry. I am sure that Minister Charles and Honorable Shakira Lockhart Hippolyte would agree that the gains we have made in this key industry are only the tip of the iceberg. Yes, Dominica being named as the #1 Caribbean island by Traveler and Leisure is just that, the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Speaker, this government has made very strategic investments in the tourism industry, all of which has been aimed at making Dominica a more attractive tourism destination. I refer to the numerous upgrades to our road network island-wide, the upgrades to our tourism sites and facilities, the increased access by way of a direct flight from Miami, and increased air and sea access regionally, increased hotel room stock, which provide visitors with more luxurious accommodation options, increased off-season events such as the recently held fitness festival, and the list can go on and on and on. Mr. Speaker, I say all that to say that this continues to translate in an increased number of cruise calls and more stayover visitors. More cruise passengers and stayover visitors means more work for tour guides and other tourism stakeholders, particularly during the off-season. Just to say, Mr. Speaker, many of these tour guides are young people. So too are, wait staff in hotels, room attendants, and other tourism staff. Mr. Speaker, this move towards transforming our 6-month industry in large measure to a robust, year-round industry will certainly impact the lives of many, including our tour guides and drivers. As a former tour guide myself, I can definitely appreciate this trust in our tourism industry. Mr. Speaker, one can only imagine what our tourism landscape will look like once our international airport is constructed. And Mr. Speaker, this is a very forward-thinking government. And to support the arrival of our international airport, we see a budget allocation of $500,000 for the Tourism Hospitality Institute development. And this will only further enhance the ability of our tour guides, vendors, and other stakeholders to provide top quality customer service to our visitors in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, I turn to youth development and entrepreneurship. Mr. Speaker, this Dominica Labour Party government continues to empower our young people through skills development. The Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, spearheaded by the Honorable Dr. Addis King, continues to invest heavily in our young people, as evidenced by this year's budget allocation for skills training. Mr. Speaker, the Layu Emergency Shelter is quickly becoming a hub for youth development and empowerment on the West Coast, all thanks to our Honorable Dr. Addis King. This facility, during this budget year, during last year, has hosted computer literacy, electrical installation, and stone wall programs. Mr. Speaker, on your casual drive to Portsmouth, you can catch a glimpse of the beautiful stonework done by the trainees at the Layu Emergency Shelter, showcasing various styles of stonework. Mr. Speaker, permit me to congratulate these trainees on doing a remarkable job in this endeavor. Another key success of this program, I believe, is the skills transfer between generations for a well sought after and highly lucrative skill. Mr. Speaker, this is the empowerment that this DLP administration speaks to. This is how we are positioning the youth of today to create a brighter future for themselves tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, this is what we call rising above the challenges and embracing all opportunities to deliver dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, by now you would know, I'm very passionate about youth entrepreneurship. I firmly believe that it is yet another critical pillar to the attainment of our dynamic Dominica. Youth entrepreneurship plays a vital role in economic growth and acts as a catalyst for job creation. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." The Dominica Youth Business Trust continues to provide both budding and existing entrepreneurs with the training and access to funding to allow them to take their future into their hands and invest in themselves and their businesses.
10 more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Trust is truly happy to support young entrepreneurs as we strive to turn young job seekers into job creators. Mr. Speaker, it is quite clear that this government has the youth of Dominica high on its agenda. In January of this year, our Honorable Prime Minister would have committed $1 million to the DYBT. Today, we see that $1 million reflected in this budget. Mr. Speaker, a promise made and a promise kept to the young entrepreneurs of Dominica. This budget allocation will strengthen the operations of the DYBT to continue extending its capacity building programs in rural areas. This decentralized approach has enabled the DYBT to reach more entrepreneurs and assist in the cultivation of an entrepreneurial mindset. This budget allocation will also provide access to financing by way of a loan guarantee facility to entrepreneurs. Mr. Speaker, at this point, I take this opportunity to recognize the entire DYBT team, Mrs. Diane Larond, Mr. Emon Gibbons, Ms. Julianne Charles, and Ms. Brittany Williams, for their long hours, dedication, and phenomenal team spirit. I thank you all. Mr. Speaker, the services provided by the DYBT lend well to this administration's overall bolstering of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The expansion of services provided by the Small Business Support Unit, including the processing of fiscal incentive licenses, will certainly increase visibility and uptake by local entrepreneurs. This, coupled with the $27.8 million loan facility at the Aid Bank, will surely continue to support an enabling environment for the SME sector. And I'm pretty sure that those who are involved in business will surely be taking advantage of this once the international airport comes on stream, Mr. Speaker. I turn to youth in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the pronouncements by our Honorable Prime Minister in his budget presentation has set the stage and positioned the young people of Dominica to take their place as key players of the agricultural sector in Dominica. This is a direct response to the bubbling enthusiasm of our young people in this sector. Mr. Speaker, this 2022-2023 budget clearly outlines the investment of $1 million, which seeks to present a solution to the challenges which hinder young people from fully engaging in farming, which include, most notably, the lack of financing, land, market, and training. Here you have it, Mr. Speaker, a plan to provide grants for startup, labor, and other incentives, which will surely spur even more interest in this sector. Mr. Speaker, young people are arguably at a more advantageous position, given that they are better able to embrace technology in agriculture. I believe that the introduction of technology is pivotal to the transformation of this sector, and can lead to higher crop productivity, increased profits, and better utilization of inputs and resources. Through the agricultural industry and this government's focus on the sector, young people have the potential to secure a sustainable and promising future for themselves and their families, and ultimately contribute to the attainment of this country's target of $700 million contribution to GDP by 2030. Mr. Speaker, again, this is what we call rising above the challenges, embracing all opportunities to deliver our dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, when you pair this initiative with the improvement of farm access roads across the length and breadth of this country, you can clearly see that agriculture is going places. I mean, just look at the ongoing rehabilitation of the Layo Valley Road, a road which serves as a gateway to many farms in the area and is being championed by the parliamentary representative, Honorable Dr. Addis King. This will certainly bode well for our young people who want to get involved or are already involved in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, as I close, I must say that the track record of this Dominica Labour Party government speaks for itself. This government has been working for us young people. This all-inclusive development agenda is clear. The plans, the programs, the policies put forward tell me that our Prime Minister and this government have our back. This 2022-2023 budget will only further equip our young people to contribute and take advantage of the vast opportunities in our beautiful, dynamic Dominica. As I have said many times before, the future is bright and will continue to be bright with this Dominica Labour Party at the helm of government. I once again express my fullest support to this 2022-2023 budget. May God continue to bless our country, bless our Prime Minister and parliamentarians, and bless each and every one of us. I thank you.
I recognize the member for Roseau South, Honorable Hippolyte. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members of this House, I rise to give my resounding support to the budget estimates for 2022-2023. It is indeed a special honor to be given yet another opportunity to address you, my parliamentary and cabinet colleagues, the people of Dominica, particularly those whom I humbly represent, the residents and voters of the Roseau South constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, make no mistake about this. The Dominica Labour Party government is known to have had a series of pre-budgetary activities to engage and to be engaged, and to inform and to inform. One of the features of our budgetary culture is political pragmatism. From the John Public in Oyo's Bar in Newtown to the Joanna Public in Clemhalf Shop in Harlem, the pulse of this nation is being felt in the creation and impact of this budget. It is the people's budget, Mr. Speaker. It is for the people and for everyone. The intellectual capital of the hardworking technicians and efficient staff within the many ministries played a critical role in the formation of this budget. When you have that super mixture of grassroots engagements and professional crafting, then, Mr. Speaker, you cannot go wrong. Mr. Speaker, tourism. I want to take us back a bit to memory lane, Mr. Speaker. Tourism was the hardest hit sector by the COVID-19 pandemic. Travelers' movements were impeded, restricted due to the virus. borders were closed, Mr. Speaker. And this gave us the opportunity in the Ministry of Tourism to re-strategize, Mr. Speaker, to look at our product development, marketing, our access, and to upgrade many of our tourism sites, Mr. Speaker. It also afforded us the opportunity to engage with many of our stakeholders. Once we had been able to manage this COVID-19 pandemic and we saw a little light at the end of the tunnel, we decided to put some protocols in place, Mr. Speaker, because we realized that many families' well-being and livelihoods were impacted by the mere fact that the tourism industry was stagnant, Mr. Speaker. We had to make some infrastructural changes at our ports of entry. Mr. Speaker, when I hear the leader of the opposition say in this honorable house that tourism is on its knees, Mr. Speaker, I wonder what is he talking about. Mr. Speaker, we have direct flights now from Miami to Dominica, Mr. Speaker, and we're saying that tourism is on its knees, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are seeing increase in our room stock, Mr. Speaker. Secret Bay is increasing its room stock, Mr. Speaker. Jungle Bay is increasing its room stock, Mr. Speaker. We have Tranquility Beach, Tranquility Hotel under construction, Mr. Speaker. And I must mention in my own constituency, at Lale Coco, Ocean Edge Hotel being constructed, Mr. Speaker. Is that means that tourism is on its knees, Mr. Speaker? I know all these developers of these hotels, and they won't invest in anything that will not bring returns to them. They are seeing that tourism is moving from lips and bogs, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are many in this house that like to speak about patriotism and being patriotic Dominican, Mr. Speaker. But we must not only talk patriotism, Mr. Speaker, we must act patriotic. And Mr. Speaker, instead the leader of the opposition takes a picture of him being on a treadmill with his dog, Mr. Speaker, and posting on Facebook. What he should do is go to Champagne Beach in Soufriere and take a picture with Donnie and post it on social media to promote tourism. He needs to visit the Col Soufriere, Mr. Speaker. Take a picture and send on Instagram, Mr. Speaker. That is what the leader of the opposition needs to do to promote tourism in this country. Mr. Speaker, we have seen the increase in our cruise calls for last year. And even this week, Mr. Speaker, we saw the Disney Fantasy Cruise Line on our shores, Mr. Speaker. Is tourism on its knees? Many of the vendors and taxi drivers, Mr. Speaker, have told me that they made a lot of money for the last cruise season, and they are looking forward to the next cruise season, which we know that will have many more calls, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sports tourism. We have heard several members of this House speak about the West Indies Bangladesh T20 match, Mr. Speaker. Matches, Mr. Speaker. And my dear friend just walked in. I'm sorry I have to refer to him. But the member for Parliament for Salisbury was at that match, Mr. Speaker. I saw him on the Sunday. And I even saw him in the Lapo cab with Mr. Speaker. His hands was in his ear, Mr. Speaker. And I'm sure he was chanting, thank God for labor, thank God for Skerrit. It's a good thing it's labor that's in power. Thank God, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure that's what he was chanting. Mr. Speaker, so tourism is moving places, Mr. Speaker. And I really want to thank many of the stakeholders, the DHTA, the DAIC, our hardworking permanent secretary, Ms. Lisa Valmont, the CTO, the staff of the Ministry of Tourism, the CEO for the port, Mr. Badwell and his staff, the CEO for DDA, Colin Piper and his staff, Mr. Speaker, and the most important person who is at the helm of tourism, Honorable Dennis Charles, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this minister has a passion for tourism, and she has been moving mountains, Mr. Speaker, in the ministry. And while I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate her on her chairmanship for the OECS Ministers Council, Ministry of Tourism, Mr. Speaker. And I got the opportunity firsthand to witness her at work, Mr. Speaker. And it appeared that Honorable Charles have been there for about 5 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really want to congratulate this government, which I have the honor to be a part of, on the measure in place for the pleasure boats, Mr. Speaker. This exciting new announcement by the Prime Minister for the yachting and pleasure craft sector, which will be effective from September 1, 2022, by removing all duties, taxes, and levies on pleasure crafts imported to Dominica, will be removed. So based on the initial set of measures 2 years ago, a luxury vessel used for tours and charters, which costs about $185,000, could realize a savings, Mr. Speaker, of $60,000. Based on new measures announced by the PM, there would be savings of $75,000, money which can now be put into business development, upgrade of the vessel with luxury amenities, and of course, improvements to customer experience and marketing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that gives us a competitive advantage. The announcement of the small ships registry open to small pleasure boats of up to 75 feet long at an annual cost of US $250 is also welcomed by the industry. This compares to higher registration fees of up to US $370 in neighboring islands. St. Vincent, $370 US, Grenada, $700 EC, and Antigua, $350 US, Mr. Speaker. So we welcome that. We have engaged the people in the industry, the yachties, and those who own pleasure crafts, Mr. Speaker. We have listened to them, and so this measure is welcome, Mr. Speaker. I want to turn now my attention to the people of the Roseau South constituency. They are strong, Mr. Speaker. My people were the first to have christened me, and look, my colleague is telling me that they have christened me the Grandpa Rep, Mr. Speaker. And I have humbly accepted such a title. I love my people, Mr. Speaker, and I'm determined to do what is right to uplift them to the highest of heights, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me now focus on some of the gains we have made in the constituency. And Mr. Speaker, as I have said before, I would not have been able to do it alone. I first want to thank the Almighty Father for his many blessings. my Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for his unwavering support, my parliamentary colleagues, my office staff, various party group members, the LYO and LWO members, and the constituents for the support they have given me. The youth and sports lovers of Lubia, Mr. Speaker, will soon have access to an upgraded playing field. A recent visit to Lubia confirms significant progress on that project. This field was severely damaged as a result of the passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017 and hindered the development of its sporting activity. A contract was signed, Mr. Speaker, with Green Rose Construction, Inc. in the amount of $150,000 for the rehabilitation of the Lubia playing field. That contract entails the leveling, grading, and regrassing of the playing field. And today, as the PAL rep, I am excited, Mr. Speaker. I'm very elated, very happy for the people of Lubia today that they are finally going to have their playing field. I'm calling on my constituents in Lubia to make great use of the Lubia playing field. As you know, Mr. Speaker, I was a former athlete. I ran the 100 meters, 200 meters, ended the relay, broke record, Mr. Speaker, national record, Mr. Speaker. And my career began on the Lubia playing field, Mr. Speaker. So I know how important that playing field is to the people of Lubia. And the contractors assured me by next week, everything will be done, Mr. Speaker. The Buffet State multi-purpose court, Mr. Speaker, has been completed. Many thought, Mr. Speaker, that this area in Buffet State could not have taken a full-size court. But today, you hear me talking of multi-purpose, Mr. Speaker, which means that we can play volleyball now on the court, basketball, netball, and if the footballers in this area so wishes, Mr. Speaker, they can play small goal football on this multi-purpose court. Mr. Speaker, there's a saying by young men. They like to say, give a young man a chance. Or let a young man shine. A young man shine in Buffet State, Mr. Joel Lewis, who was the contractor on this project, Mr. Speaker. And he did the work on this court with professionalism, diligence, and discipline, Mr. Speaker, and he delivered. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank Sugar Jones, Inc. and Tranquility for the purchase of the reversible rims, costing $23,000, Mr. Speaker. We will also see the lighting of the basketball court in this next financial year, Mr. Speaker. And we have already purchased the lights for the multi-purpose court at Buffet State. We have also built a free-on-free, you have heard of free-on-free basketball, Mr. Speaker, which the Member of Parliament for Roseau Central brought to Roseau some time ago. And as a sports person, I inquired what is free-on-free. I've never heard of free-on-free, but it seems to be the hottest thing in basketball now, Mr. Speaker. So I followed suit, and I do not want the constituents of Roseau South to be left behind. So in Kings Hill, we cannot get a full court, but we were able to get a free-on-free basketball court, Mr. Speaker. And what is important and fundamental is that this court was built by the young people of Kings Hill, Mr. Speaker. Our housing, Mr. Speaker. Roseau South people are here in houses being built in all constituencies, Mr. Speaker. But we have challenges, Mr. Speaker, in Roseau South. Government does not have land, and we have to purchase land, and we have been looking, Mr. Speaker. I've been walking from street to street, block to block, hamlet by hamlet, village by village, looking for land for my people for housing, Mr. Speaker. And I won't stop because I'm the ground parrot, Mr. Speaker. So I won't stop until we get housing for the people of Roseau South. I can tell the people today that we have cleared the lands at Houghton Estate in Egliston. But because of the soil type, Mr. Speaker, we are now doing the retaining walls. But all 16 contractors have signed their contracts to build this housing, Mr. Speaker, for the people of Roseau South. And these will be 3-bedroom, standalone homes, Mr. Speaker. And all local. We have heard so many times the opposition lament about local contractors. But we have been utilizing local contractors, and local contractors will be building these homes in Egliston, Mr. Speaker. We'll be utilizing our plumbers, our carpenters, our electricians from all over the constituency, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that these homes are built properly, Mr. Speaker. Roseau South has not been left behind in terms of housing, Mr. Speaker, because we have, under the World Bank funded program, Mr. Speaker, 12 homes have been approved for the people of Roseau South, and 4 of them have been completed thus far in the areas of Bathurst, Kingsale, and Girondale, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are taking a phased approach to the housing development in the Roseau South constituency. We still continue through local funds to construct roofs for the people because there are still people who do not have roofs over their heads post-Hurricane Maria, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built anyway, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we saw a pre-show in Girondale, Egliston, and Shaflu. Really flower show, Mr. Speaker. And the government of Dominica in this year's budget has pledged a yearly subvention of $100,000 towards the annual hosting of the Girondale Egliston Flower Show, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, you have 10 more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And an additional 15 minutes, Mr.
It has been moved and seconded that the honorable member be given an additional 10 minutes? 15? 15 minutes to complete her presentation.
Mr. Speaker, I expected the honorable member for Salisbury to have seconded.
Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable member, you may continue.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the people of Girondale Egliston felt the economic impact of the pre-show of the flower show, which was held some time ago, Mr. Speaker. And some people felt that it was the real flower show. So when it wasn't. It wasn't. And if you have to see the real flower show, Mr. Speaker, boy. They're waiting, Mr. Speaker, for that. And not only the people of Girondale and Egliston, but the entire Dominica. I saw people from Woodford Hill, from Penville, from Calibishi, from all over Dominica visited Girondale. And Mr. Speaker, they should not be afraid, because if we do not have enough space, we'll create space for the people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the people of Roseau South also benefited in small business. $91,000, Mr. Speaker, to 18 beneficiaries of the Roseau South constituency, Mr. Speaker, benefited from small business grants at the small business unit, Mr. Speaker. We will not be left behind in education, Mr. Speaker. Several tablets, laptops were given to the children of the Roseau South constituency, Mr. Speaker. The fishermen from Newtown, Mr. Speaker, also benefited from their vending stall and washroom facility. And I do not want to rehash and go down memory lane about the states in which this area was, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you, anytime you pass through Newtown now, some people think it's their constituency alone that catching the boat, but I can tell you, Newtown, we catching the most fish, Mr. Speaker. We engage in net fishing, deep sea fishing, fat fishing, all kind of fishing, Mr. Speaker. Just name it, we have fish, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this year's budget, the fishermen have been complaining about the heat because there's a temporary tent there, and I want to thank the Minister of Justice for assisting us with the tents for our fishermen. But there will be a permanent shelter, Mr. Speaker, permanent covering for the fishermen of Newtown in that area, Mr. Speaker. And they are thankful for it, and we want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture for working with us, Mr. Speaker. And we want you all to work with us because Newtown is a fishing community. Both Honorable Grant and Honorable Riviere, Mr. Speaker. We need our ice machine too, Mr. Speaker.
Riviere, man.
Mr. Speaker, ice. We need ice. More ice, Mr. Speaker. Now, I heard the honorable member for Salisbury. I mean, he has to boast, you know, Mr. Speaker, about his area and a lot of sports being played, but we are the mecca of sports in Dominica, Mr. Speaker. And Harlem is the mecca of football, Mr. Speaker. And we lost our lights during Hurricane Maria. But I can tell the people of Newtown today, Mr. Speaker, that have gotten the commitment from the Lottery Commission to have their lights installed, Mr. Speaker. And they will see that in this next financial year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many have told me don't talk about it, but I have to talk about it because I must talk about it. We have to talk about things that are affecting the people of this country, Mr. Speaker. The Emsall Bridge, Mr. Speaker. And people are asking me if it's not in the estimate. Mr. Speaker, it is there. It is there in the estimates, $10.5 million for the Emsall Bridge, Mr. Speaker. And I won't rest, I won't stop until I see the people of Emsall get their bridge. The designs have been done, we have done the estimates, and we'll be holding a consultation with them within the next 3 months, Mr. Speaker. And so we can show them the designs, and whatever questions and concerns that they have, we'll address them, Mr. Speaker. Now, we heard the Prime Minister speak to the digital economy and the innovation hub, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to inform the people of the Newtown area that the main digital hub will be in Newtown, Mr. Speaker. We are going to renovate the old Newtown preschool, Mr. Speaker, and this will enable many of those who want to develop their apps and different softwares. They can do so there. We will have training, Mr. Speaker. We held a consultation with our 70 and over, 50 and over last week, and they were quite impressed by the number of things that you could do online. Some of them did not know that you could pay your bills online, your dorm leg instead of standing in the long hot sun, and many of them have asked us for training, Mr. Speaker. So we welcome that venture in Roseau South, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, those of us who are present, Mr. Speaker, in this August chamber, and those of us who are viewing and listening from near and far, via GIS, DBS, and other media houses. Let me end as I had begun. I am proud to state with great enthusiasm my full support for this billion-dollar budget and associated measures, Mr. Speaker. The views which I had the privilege to echo aren't just my own, but they represent the resounding position of the overwhelming masses of persons in the Roseau South constituency who I am privileged to represent and humbly serve. The government which I am proud to be a part of doesn't define itself as one bathing in the sea of perfection. Our transformational leader has said so. None can reasonably disregard our phenomenal record of achievement, Mr. Speaker. None can ignore our absolute commitment towards the development of Whitey Kubuli without fear or favor, ill will, or disaffection. None can disregard the incontrovertible fact that the DLP is the only united, honest, structured, genuine, effective, organized, disciplined, people and development-centered, trustworthy, and most successful political party in Dominica. For none can ignore, with a good conscience, our undying love for the people of Dominica. For no one can seriously disregard the great respect which our leader and this governing Dominica Labour Party and Dominica have earned at home, within the region, and indeed throughout the international community. No one can doubt the fact that Dominica is on an upward development trajectory which Hurricane UWP cannot derail. And absolutely no one can stop the Dominica Labour Party from inflicting yet another crushing and humiliating electoral defeat, Mr. Speaker, of the UWP combined opposition forces whenever, Mr. Speaker, elections are called. What a wow. Whether you keep the emperor without a throne in Mount Daniel, or you go to South Sudan, it makes no difference. For half a dozen is still 6, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Who does that? Come on.
Yes, I recognize Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House be suspended until 6:30. Huh? No, man. At 6:45 this evening.
It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House be suspended until 6:45 this evening. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This House stands suspended until 6:45.